Okay, good evening. Welcome to the November 25th, 2013 Planning Commission meeting for the City of Fayetteville. I'd like to remind everybody to please turn your cell phones to off or silent, and if anyone needs a listening device, please check with staff, and I'm sure they'd be happy to accommodate. Let's see. Mr. Garner, could you please call, please call the roll.
Noble. Autry.
Here.
Hoskins.
Here.
Jesser.
Here.
Pennington.
Here.
Marshall.
Here.
Cook.
Here.
Winston.
Here.
Bunch.
Here.
Okay, we have 3 items on consent. The first is the approval of the minutes for the October 28, 2013 meeting. The second is the approval of the minutes for the November 12th, 2013 meeting. And lastly, a vacation 13-4533 for, let's see, 2732 and 2734 Wildwood Legacy. Is there any member of the public here that would like any of these items pulled for discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cook.
Oh, all right. I'll move that we approve the consent agenda. Second.
Okay. I have a motion from Commissioner Cook and a second from Commissioner Chesser. Mr. Garner, will you please call the roll?
Autry.
Yes.
Hoskins.
Yes.
Jesser.
Yes.
Pennington.
Yes.
Marshall.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Winston.
Yes.
Bunch.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. First item of new business is administrative item 13-4527 for 731 Razorback Prestridge. Mr. Thompson, could we have your staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subject property is located at 731 South Razorback. Razorback Road contains approximately 1 acre in the I-1 zoning district. The applicant is Yogo's Energy Cafe. They're a mobile vendor who obtained their mobile vendor permit last year. It will expire on November 29th. The applicant is requesting a variance to allow their business to remain in this location for 1 year. That's 275 days from the expiration of the original permit. Staff finds that the business does not create or worsen any dangerous traffic condition, and that it is compatible and not detrimental to nearby properties. Staff did find a nearby business, Mezzaluna Cafe, located approximately 900 feet to the south, serving similar business or similar menu items. The business owner there indicated that he was unconcerned with this business and their location, nor did he consider it the business his competition in any way. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of ABM 4527 with 3 conditions. I'd like to point out 2 of them here. That the vendor shall be permitted at the location until August 8th, 2014, and that the trailer must be located in the place shown on their submitted plan within 7 days of PC approval. Currently, they're not on their location that they've indicated. And that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant available? If you could, come up and tell us about your project and tell us your name, please.
We have a mobile vendor. We're currently making and selling organic pizzas, organic pizza crust that we have made at Ozark Natural Foods. Our business plan includes delivering our pizzas by electric bike, mainly to the university, and then we also offer late night delivery till 3 a.m., which cuts down on some of the traffic of the drinking and driving. So.
Okay, and just for the record, could you please state your name?
Oh, I'm Rusty Prestridge.
Okay.
Kara Prestridge.
Okay, and you're comfortable with everything that's in the report? Okay. If we have any questions, we'll bring it back up.
Thank you.
Is there any member of the public here to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Commission. Commissioners.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chester.
I have a question for the applicant, if you don't mind coming back up. So I note that you're in violation because you're not in the right spot. Can you explain why you didn't set up? Did you not know where you're supposed to be, or what happened? Can you tell me what happened there?
I can't read a map.
We didn't know
Okay.
we were supposed to.
So you're aware, you've got with staff, you know how to move it to be in the right location at this point?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Can you
That,
answer?
Can I ask a question as well?
if the chair will allow, sure.
Certainly.
I think we're one corner off, you know, I mean, we're literally, I think, maybe 20 or 30 feet from right around the corner where we're supposed to be. I don't know, we have to move that to where it's at on the drawing we made.
I think that staff could probably answer that. Quinn, can you answer that?
Staff's concern is that you're within building setbacks, and your trailer, even though it is temporary, is considered a structure at this time.
Okay.
So we need to have that building outside of the building setback, which is 50 feet from the right-of-way in that
Okay.
location. So,
Okay.
You might, I mean, it's real hard for us to answer that here, and if you have difficulty, you might consider consulting a surveyor or something to make sure you're in the right spot.
Yes, sir.
We can do that.
Thank you. That's the only question I had. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anyone else?
Sure.
Commissioner Hoskins.
As I have, this would probably affect me personally or whatever, so therefore I'm going to recuse myself.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner,
Porter.
Winston.
Over here. Considering that Linda doesn't have an issue with this building being here, and they've figured out probably where they need to be, I want to move to approve administrative item 13-4527 for Prestridge with the three conditions that were given.
Second?
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Winston and a second from Commissioner Chester.
Mr. Vernon, please call the roll.
Autry?
Yes.
Hoskins? Chester?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Archibald?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Winston?
Yes.
Bunch?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item we have is a conditional use permit for 13-4535 for 1481 West Van Ash Drive, Northwest Towing and Recovery. Mr. Garner, could you please give us a staff report?
Sure. This property is addressed at 1481 West Van Ash Drive. It's kind of at the northwest corner of Fayetteville, right near Johnson. Immediately adjacent to the west of the property is On the Corner Restaurant, and then to the east is Tomlinson Asphalt. And then we're also kind of in the vicinity of the outdoor drive-in movie theater. You can see here this area in general along this Van Ash, just adjacent to I-540, is primarily kind of a light commercial industrial type area. There was a 2,000 square foot metal building that was constructed in 1993 on the property, and it's been previously used as a landscape contracting business. And the applicant's proposing towing and impound yard on the property, and the zoning is C2, so that requires a conditional use permit for a towing yard, which is use unit 21 under our zoning code. We have not received any public comment on this application. However, a few months ago, when this same application was being discussed, we did receive some phone calls, and I talked to one of the managers for this drive-in movie theater. They were concerned if there was any additional lighting that would be installed with the towing yard that could potentially affect the viewing of their movies. And so they have not called again on this for this particular application at this time, but you'll see in the staff report we make mention of it, and we also include a condition of approval to address outdoor lighting that could potentially affect that use. We are recommending in favor of the conditional use permit, and looking at the surrounding land uses, we feel like it is appropriate to have a towing yard in this location, and we feel like it would be appropriate. There's also some other storage yards immediately adjacent to it with Tomlinson Asphalt adjacent to the east, and then the Arkansas Highway Department also has kind of an equipment yard adjacent to the south. We do have some conditions of approval. One of the basic requirements under code, but we do have it mentioned here, is that the towing yard has to be completely surrounded by a wood privacy fence, and that's in the code, and so we've included that as a condition. So before they would open up or get a business license, that has to be installed. We're also recommending that there's a non-compliant fence issue also with, there's some chain link fence out front with some barbed wire on it, and I'll pull up the property here, you can see a little bit better. You can see in this aerial photo, there's chain link fence and barbed wire kind of at the top of it, right along Van Ash. And under our commercial design standards, you're not allowed to have that type of fence between the building and the street. That type of fence would be allowed, but it has to be pushed back at least beyond this front edge of the building. So we're recommending that fence be relocated with this conditional use permit. And the other standard conditions in here are just, a lot of these are just basic code requirements, but we wanted to get them on the record and also to let the applicant know, so there's not any confusion at a later time. So we're recommending approval with these conditions, and I'd be happy to answer questions you may have.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself on this. Okay, thank you.
Is the applicant available? If you could, come up and state your name and tell us about your project, please.
I'm Amanda Manning.
I'm Brent Manning.
We're the owners of NWA Towing and Recovery. We wanted to open up the towing business and impound lot because we've been awarded the City of Fayetteville contract that starts December 8th. So that's why we're looking at this location at Van Ash for the conditional use permit. And we understand all the conditions we're actually looking at removing that chain link fence because we have to have the wood boarded fence on all four sides for the actual impound lot. We are not planning on adding any additional lighting. However, we do have to have security cameras as conditions of the police permit, but there won't be any additional lighting done. So I know the drive-in movie was concerned about that.
Yeah, I think the lighting is very sufficient, but that chain link fence, Andrew, that we had talked, that's going to come down instead of relocating it. We're planning on just taking that frontage chain link fence down, and of course doing the wooden structure around the impound lot,
Okay.
which will be set behind the building.
Yeah.
Okay. If we have any questions, we'll bring it back
Okay.
up.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any member of the public here to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Commissioner Hoskins.
Andrew, you have a question. Our overlay district, how far north does it go? Will this property be included in the overlay district as far as the north leg of 540?
If you will remember, the I-540 design overlay district was taken away within the last year. We've had some code changes. It does still apply for our sign ordinance, so I have not looked at that, if that would apply, and it would basically just mean no pole signs.
Okay, so monument sign would be the only thing. Okay.
If it is, it's 600 feet from the, so yes, I haven't measured that off, but no, that looks to be within that.
Yeah. So I know this property is very, very visible from the 540 above, if you're coming down from Johnson or what have you. As far as commercial design standards, we probably don't have any.
This is industrial type use.
Well, it's an existing building. They're not proposing to change it.
Okay.
So that it's kind of grandfathered in as far as that goes. If they did propose any sort of changes or additions, it would be subject to review because the property is zoned commercially.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Chesser.
I move we approve CUP 13-4535 with staff recommendations of approval.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Chesser and a second from Commissioner Hoskins. Mr. Garner, will you please call the roll?
Hoskins?
Yes.
Chesser?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Honchel?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Winston? Yes. Bunce?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. The next item is a rezone 13-4538 for Razorback Road, Victory Commons. Mr. Thompson, could you give us a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. This is the same property we were just looking at a moment ago. It's located west of Razorback Road, a little bit south of Martin Luther King Drive. The property is currently zoned I-1 and contains multiple lots of approximately 5.17 acres and an existing warehouse of about 12,500 square feet that was built around 1972. The request is to rezone this property from I-1 to UT, that's urban thoroughfare. Staff finds that the proposal to rezone the property will allow this property to be developed with commercial and residential uses that are consistent with our policies and goals for this particular neighborhood. City Plan 2030 designates this as urban center, and that's a designation that encourages height, density, quite a variety of uses, and in order to create a compact neighborhood, a compact urban neighborhood. Staff also finds that the rezoning is justified, in part at least due to the fact that the area, the current industrial zoning in the area is becoming incompatible with surrounding developments, particularly student housing and other developments that are occurring in that area, and that this UT urban thoroughfare would be a lot more in line with our goals in the neighborhood. So for that, for those reasons, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission forward this rezoning to the City Council with recommendation for approval.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, as I am very related to this application, I'm going to recuse myself and leave the room. There will be no representative as far as applicant, because I'm leaving. So,
No representative, can't pass.
You guys can improvise. I've got
Okay, is there a member of the public here to speak to this item? If you could, please state your name.
Aubrey Shepherd. Well, I photographed this site for many years, decade or more, for sure. And I would hope that rezoning doesn't mean that the area between the railroad spur and the highway that goes down to the south end would have its timber removed and that wetland filled, because that's a critical gathering point of water from above, uphill, mostly from this side of the highway. Maybe some runoff from the Razorback Road, but if you see basically it's like a bayou back there. There's a ditch-like area beside the railroad on the south side. And right in there you see the swampy area. That's set aside by the Corps of Engineers several years ago as a wetland, and it's designated as a protected area. Behind a little further downstream, behind that parking area for those, that parking lot, all that's Corps of Engineers protected, and it's fenced in so you can't see the willow trees and the wildlife and so forth in there. So this is a stream area, and excuse me, I don't know just how it might have looked before the railroad was built, but anyway, it's critical to the property further downstream. The Razorback, besides the red building that's the revenue office, and it's filled in some for its construction and reduced the wetland already. The area immediately below there, I don't know if you can move to that, or if this is just a single shot, but anyhow, it's got, it's taking the water from there and from the west underground and under the Razorback baseball parking lot, and then under Baum Stadium and into the only water retention area on the campus of the University of Arkansas, the only one. So the water from there flows after it leaves the retention pond on the south side of the Razorback Stadium, goes to the under the property that was approved. You guys remember many months ago, just to the south of Razorback Road for another development, and you remember the discussion maybe of the protection of native plants on that side and using some of them for landscaping, natural landscaping, and restoration of the stream where it is out of the pipes down through that area. So the flooding that's caused by any increase in paving there and any reduction of absorbent soil or those ponds and swamp areas in that adjacent to this property and on this property, that V down there, that will increase flooding downstream all the way to Beaver Lake, and particularly along the city park that's at the confluence of Cato Springs Road and or Cato Springs Branch, which will also drain the Cummings property, by the way, and anything out there is going to add to this flooding south of there and east of there. So it's critical that this property you're approving tonight be treated as somewhat delicate property. That's first, there's a canopy issue on tree removal, and that's very important to air quality and our potential climate change situation. But also the water quality downstream will be affected, and the flooding. And it's important to recognize that you can't build a big hard bottom pond and catch water temporarily as efficiently and as cheaply as getting the cleansing value of having that water in those natural vegetated areas. And that's a goal we should be looking at every time we look at a project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chester.
Actually, if I could ask Mr. Shepherd a question real quickly, just to make sure, when you say the timber that you were concerned about on this property, you're talking about the triangle down to the south there, is that correct? Trying to locate, is that what you're?
Yes, that's the property.
Okay.
And the water flows from it into that just below the railroad, then it flows back up to the northwest along the railroad, and then it comes around through a little stream area behind that rounded looking parking lot there for those apartments. And then all that down there is the same swamp area that's protected by the Corps.
I'm just making sure which part you were talking about. Thank you. Let's see, was this Quinn's or Andrew's? Quinn, I'm assuming that all the trees in that area will be protected as normal by tree ordinance, correct?
This is just the rezoning.
It's not going to matter anyway at this point.
Those things will be those items will be addressed at
LSD.
and reviewed at the time of LSD. That's correct.
Okay. That was my only question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, just a question, follow up on the, Quinn, do you know what the area is that is protected by the Corps? Do we have a line for that?
I do not.
Is it like a corridor sort of situation? Do we have any idea?
I think it is, if Andrew would zoom in on that just a little bit. I think it's certainly to the south of the railroad down there. In fact, that's all, that whole area you can see there is mostly water when this photograph is taken. But I believe there's also some on the other side of that rail corridor that is affected in this property. And it does hold water down there, I understand. I'm sure that's part of it. I'm not sure what the boundaries are.
Just wanted to the record to show that at this level, there was concern about protecting the vegetation in that area. My feeling is that the zoning that's proposed is appropriate, and it gives the best opportunity for a compact building situation on this site, and so I'm supporting it.
Okay. Commissioner Cook?
Yep. I agree with Mr. Winston's assessment also. I do have a little bit of concern, and I know we're just talking about rezoning, but when we look forward in the development process, obviously we have the trail right away that runs through there. We're extending a piece of that now, and I know that the city is good about including that, but I definitely hope that's incorporated well in this project. And also the way the traffic flows in this area, I know this is a pretty heavy and use intensity zoning. Traffic there is kind of screwy right now just because of the median that was added in there, and Indian Trail, I think, is the road that cuts behind the businesses there, and the way that the cars move in and out of the gas station there. I know if we had a heavy use in there, it's going to create things a little more havoc in there, and I know that could be a problem going forward, even though this property does have a connection on the backside at Arbuckle. So that's one of my concerns, but I think overall this is probably appropriate for this site.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Chester?
I move that we forward rezone 13-4538 to the City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Okay. I do have one question for staff. Quinn, just broadly, the stream side ordinance would weigh in heavily with a piece of property like this. I mean, whenever it comes to development time and just the way the lay of the land.
Well, in this case, I don't know that we identify that as stream.
Okay.
It is a Corps of Engineer wetland. It does hold water, but there is no stream there.
Okay.
And so it does not, stream side zone actually does not affect this, and those ordinances will not affect this at all.
Okay.
But the Corps of Engineers is involved, clearly, and their requirements will have to be addressed. There's
okay.
no getting around that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just a quick follow-up on that. Can you just outline for the public again what the criteria is for a collection of water being included in or excluded from the stream side protection ordinance? It's a cubic feet of water, I think, or something.
I don't know exactly what the requirement is that designates that. Maybe Andrew does, but okay.
I can address it. For our stream side protection ordinance, it's basically a watershed. Once the stream starts to gather 100 acres or more of water, then it's considered it's included in that stream side area. But this particular property is not in a floodplain. It's not in a FEMA floodplain or a stream that we regulate. As Mr. Shepard mentioned, there are some Army Corps wetlands there, and the city does not regulate those. That's through the federal government. So that permitting process through that, they would obviously have to comply with that, but that's not something that the city regulates or has jurisdiction over.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Chester and second from Commissioner Winston. Mr. Garner, will you please call the roll?
Autry?
Yes.
Chester?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Honchel?
Yes.
Cook? Yes. Winston?
Yes.
Bunch?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item up is a rezone 13-4536 for 4310 West Martin Luther King Boulevard, Edwards. Mr. Garner, can you give us the staff report, please?
Yes, sir. This property is located on the border between Fayetteville and Farmington. I have the property pulled up here in Google Earth so you can get your bearings. Just adjacent to the west is Farmington, and it's not showing up in the aerial photo, but within the last 18 months, Career Academy has been constructed here kind of on this eastern portion of the property, which is a cosmetology school, and the applicant is before the commission requesting to rezone the remainder of their property, which is about 4.42 acres from RA residential agricultural to C1 neighborhood commercial. The adjacent property immediately to the east for the Career Academy is zoned CS Community Services. Then to the north, there is a stream and associated floodplain. Sorry, I'm a little bit off here. This property right here. Stream is up here to the north, and there's floodplain, and Walnut Crossing is located here to the north as well. The applicant's intent from their letter and from my meeting with him was to construct a donut shop on the property. And we did include in your packet here, and I just wanted to discuss it on the record, that the Planning Commission and City Council have continually discouraged the application of suburban commercial strip types of zoning along Western Martin Luther King. And there have been several applications that have been applied for along this area of Fayetteville that have been denied for C1 or C2 zoning. And the most recent one that I could remember was where the Aldi's grocery store is. They requested to have that zoned to C1, and the Planning Commission denied that. And it was eventually developed with, with the grocery store with a conditional use permit. We do find on this particular property that the C1 zoning would not be consistent with our adopted future land use plans and the previous decisions of City Council and the Planning Commission in this area. We feel like the extension of that type of strip commercial development is not what our city plan talks about, with one of the primary goals being to encourage traditional town form, where you're not encouraging that type of strip commercial development like you would see up and down College Avenue. So there are some different options in the zoning code for the applicant to develop this property commercially, and the property is designated as a city neighborhood area, so we do feel like it does have the potential for some intense types of developments, but we don't feel like the form is appropriate in this location. In addition, just because of the environmental sensitivity of the property, there is floodplain over almost, about half of the property, and we're concerned with applying a commercial zoning all the way to the property line, where you're encouraging more intense types of development patterns where they may not be appropriate. And so with that, we're recommending denial of the request, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant available? If you could, please state your name and tell us about your project.
My name is Evan Niehaus. I'm here representing Mr. Edwards. And I don't think that it's disagreement that the project or the property should in some way be rezoned to be developed, but I guess the question is what it should be rezoned as. And the owner has a couple concerns about why he would zone it commercial as opposed to C1. I don't think he disagrees with being able to push the building to the front of the property. I guess one of the major concerns is that if we did zone it community services, there being a drive-through, I know that it's possible to develop the property with a drive-through and it still be fronting the property. I don't know, Andrew, can you put a drive in the front as long as you meet the build-to zone?
Do you want me to dialogue?
If you would.
Is that okay?
Yeah, it just, I can't speak on that individual property. I mean, I don't know physically if there's enough room. You have a 10 to 25 foot build-to zone, you may have some easements on this particular property. I don't know if that would be possible or not.
I mean, like, it is not disallowed by the zoning, is what I'm asking.
Probably not. I mean, it's probably not disallowed, but I don't know if it's really feasible, because you have requirement for 15 feet of green space between any parking or drive-through lane in the street. So then you'd have 15 feet of green space. Then you'd have to put a drive aisle for the drive-through, which that may be another, I don't know, 10, 15 feet wide. And then you have probably a sidewalk in the building, and that may push it outside of the build-to zone.
So logistically, it would be almost impossible. And another item would be some of the architectural design standards being this far out into the community. I guess that it would add another burden upon the developer. Furthermore, the building is relatively small. It's basically 40 by 60, I believe, and the property having an angle and being so wide and so large is I think just having the building be there would be like around 10%, 15% of the actual street frontage, whereas community services zoning requires some sort of 65%. And so with the building being so small, in addition, the owner is not proposing to develop along the floodplain in the back of the property that that would obviously, we had questions about developing on the floodplain. But the biggest concern is us, I guess, trying to get a variance for such a small building on a community services lot where 65% would be required. And I'm not sure if it comes to this board for that variance, but obviously we wouldn't be meeting that in any way, no matter how we decided to develop the building. And I guess that's basically the reasons why we would propose C1. But it is going to be a donut shop. I don't think putting parking in the back is a problem. I don't believe having the building on the front is a problem, but I think that the few difficulties that arise from the community services zoning make it more difficult.
Okay, thanks. If we have any questions, we'll bring you back up. And I just have a real quick question before we take public comment. Andrew, on something like this, are we to consider any type of building that's going to be placed? I mean, I know we're not looking at plans at this point, but is that a consideration?
You can look at what the uses would be under that particular zoning district and consider whether there are uses there that would be good or uses there that make it where you would not recommend rezoning to that particular use unit. But you really cannot consider the actual project if one is being proposed.
Okay.
I would like to address one comment really quickly on the discussion that the community services requires 65% building frontage. So if you have a small building, you'd automatically have to ask for a variance because you can't have enough building in the street frontage. If the commission will remember, within the last year we've changed that code. That's no longer a requirement. For a drive-through facility, they're exempted from that. They still have to put the building in the build-to zone, but they're exempt from the percentage because under these vehicular-oriented types of developments, we realized that was something we need. So we kind of recalibrated the code, to say over the last year to make these kinds of developments more feasible in a traditional form. There's some other options they would have to do. They'd have to do some sort of a screen wall or something else to make up for that percentage, but they're not automatically being put in a variance situation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any member of the public here to speak to this item? Okay, please state your name.
Aubrey Shepherd. I just wanted to ask a question. Now, what spot on there is actual building going? It's that whole property's 4-something acres. And then the building itself would be right in there. I have see nothing against it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. If you could, please state your name.
Greg Edwards, and I'm in favor of the project, of course. But I was going to address what type of building it is. It looks residential in nature. It will have some type of wood overhang around the outside. It will have a pitched roof on it, probably metal. The one that we have done in Springdale does have a metal roof, and it's covered. So I just wanted to let you know what type of structure it was going to be.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Hussey.
I've got a question for that. So now, which company are you with? I saw something here from Bates, but I don't...
Bates and Associates.
Okay, you are from Bates. Okay, all right, great. My question to you is if this rezoning is for a donut shop up here by the road, why are you wanting to rezone the entire 4-point-whatever acres?
I think that's what we turned in. I wasn't under the understanding that it would be a big deal, but I guess that it is now. So when we put it in our application, that is what we had suggested, but I don't think that it's necessary that the whole thing has to be rezoned to C1. And
Okay, you do understand that because this is not a large-scale development, of course.
Right.
Nothing about building plans or anything came in with this application, so that's not anything that we can consider, the style of the building or the overhangs of the roof or what have you. That's not something that we consider.
Okay.
As far as a form-based zone, the property next door, I think wasn't it zoned community services as well? Okay, and you're saying that won't work for you because of, why exactly? Because of the front drive?
The general plan of the building was to have the drive come around the side and then come around the front and exit into the existing commercial drive there for the adjacent building.
Right.
So access is limited, so due to the, lot split, I believe. So there has to be access through that main drive in the center.
Okay, so your concern is not being able to park in front of the building.
Right.
Your concern is being able to drive in front of the building.
Yes.
Okay. How wide would that, since you're the engineer, how wide would that driveway be?
I would say 15 feet one way.
Really? Why so wide?
I mean, it could be less. That was my premonition at the very beginning.
Okay. I think in our ordinances in our alleys, a one-way alley for public use, multiple housing is 12 feet.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm just kind of curious why you thought it needed to be so wide. Okay. Thank you very much. Andrew, as we move more towards these type of zonings, I can see where there could be a little bit of a problem there whenever you've got a drive-through type situation. And they said that their issue was not parking in the front of the building, so therefore I would say staff's probably correct as far as the C1 zoning is probably not really appropriate, or not even really required, I guess. But I do see the applicant's problem with being able to hit the 0 to 25 foot build to zone if they need a drive in the front. Of course, I don't think they need a 15-foot drive, but so what would be the kind of alternative? Would it be a PZD? Would it be a this zoning with a Board of Adjustments with setback? In other words, what is available to them?
As I mentioned previously, I mean, it could feasibly, reasonably be developed for a drive-through restaurant under the community services zoning. We recently have reviewed a Dunkin' Donuts with a drive-through that has they are by right. There's no variance situation on that property. Well, actually, there is one variance because there's a big easement up front.
Right.
So the building is a little bit out of the easement, but I mean, as far as like having to have the drive-through like directly in front of the building, we're not seeing that as an issue. But so.
What was that zoning for Dunkin' Donuts?
Community services.
Okay, so they were able to do it and get the drive in the front.
The drive in the back.
Oh, the drive.
Yeah, the building's up front. The drive is all at the back, including the drive-through.
Okay, so was the configuration of that the cars would pull in, go around the back parking lot, and then up behind the building?
I mean, if you want to, if the commission wants to take a few minutes, I mean, I could pull up a site plan for Dunkin' Donuts and show you. I don't know if it's.
I don't know if that's necessary.
A good consideration to start reviewing.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And I wasn't suggesting that. Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair, just had a question for Mr. Garner. If they, the city would be, I'm assuming, opposed to having another curb cut. Is that correct? That we've got a nice big curb cut that's on their property, having another curb cut would be...
Yeah, and we did discuss that with the applicant when the Career Academy came through, and then when they filed their lot split, they included notations on the lot split that was filed of record that there will not be additional curb cuts except for, there's one curb cut here for Career Academy and there's another one down here for this lift station. So based on this frontage, that was the two cuts that were agreed to.
Okay. I think that's it.
Okay. I do have one question, just for clarification for myself. Andrew, is there any way, just for a proximity thing for myself, the Career Academy that currently exists, do you know about what that setback is? I mean, can you tell me about what that setback is that we're looking at on this, just to give me an idea of what we're looking at?
I can pull up the aerial photo real quick. This is an updated aerial photo that does show kind of where the Career Academy is laid out. You know, they're probably about 15 feet from the road.
Okay. Okay, that helps. That's all I had for now.
And Mr. Chair, the thought of that other question was, is it possible to get a variance for the setback by a few feet? Is that something that the commission can give at the time of large-scale development?
That's a Board of Adjustment because that's a zoning issue.
Okay. And is that something that they've ever given?
They have, and as I mentioned, the Dunkin' Donuts restaurant is in a situation where their building has to be a little bit further off the street than the build-to zone because there's a really large easement up front. So that's going to be considered in December, but it's not real uncommon to have that kind of situation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chester.
So, Andrew, in your opinion, there are other zoning solutions that could allow the applicant to build what they're attempting to build? Am I hearing that properly?
That's our opinion.
Okay. I'm going to move, in this case, I'm going to agree with sort of precedent that we're trying to not do as much C1, and I might also suggest that the applicant consider the floodplain issue, knowing that maybe that whole thing doesn't have to be rezoned. I'm going to move that I guess there's no forward if we recommend for denial. How does that work? I'm going to move that
if you deny it, then they have the automatic right to appeal.
I'm going to move that we deny rezone 13-4536.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Chesser and a second from Commissioner Autry, and I'm just going to make a comment. I'm pretty much torn on my decision on this one, but I do tend to lean with staff that there is a solution that we could reach with something other than C1. I'm just kind of swinging a leg off both sides of the fence. It's really a tough decision, but I'm leaning more towards staff. That's a tough call because I do understand the predicament that you're faced with as far as trying to get a drive-through in on a property like that. But I think that I have faith in staff that that you guys can come to a resolution. And with that, I'm going to vote in denial. So,
Can I comment here?
certainly, Mr. Cook or Commissioner Cook.
Go ahead, okay. So if we deny this, what are their options besides appealing it on? Is it?
Well, they can come back with a different zoning request. They can't come back with the identical zoning request for a year, but they could come back with a different zoning request virtually immediately.
Okay. Well, I can tell you I'm not in favor of C1, mainly because I think I voted against most of those along Martin Luther King too. I guess my issue with that is in this location, even looking at our master street plan and how we plan on developing through there, that's kind of, I can see that one on a major corner that we see, a future corner or something like that, but in our master street plan it doesn't show that. So I'm really not in favor of that zoning on Martin Luther King, just for the same reason that we discussed in the agenda session, that we're trying to prevent creating another
71 business, we always say, or whatever the case may be, but I don't want to end the debate. I think that there may be some options there. That's the reason why I asked that question. All right, thank you.
Good, thank you. Mr. Hoskins?
Andrew, if this were to fail tonight, would a good avenue for the applicant might be a PGD, or to where they could still demonstrate that they were putting the building up on the street, but limiting it so they can get that drive-through there? Is that a possibility, or are we trying to shy away from those?
You know, if there's a particular layout the applicant wants, you know, that is not allowed in any certain zoning, then I would say that would be when a PZD would be recommended. My understanding, from meeting with them, they do want to do a suburban commercial drive-through, kind of a strip commercial type of a thing, and that's why they're asking for C1. We're more than happy to sit down and work with them on different design techniques if they would like to do a type of an urban zoning district, but at this point I haven't seen any sort of a layout that would require a PZD.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I could point out that the whole reason that the city council back when I was on the council in the 90s and throughout all the way back up here is really not whether or not it would be a form-based district, but to try to avoid a commercial strip along that highway. And even if you have the building up close, it's very similar to a lot of the buildings that are up close on North College, who were not designed with form base, but it's still one little commercial right on the road and a whole strip of them all the way up the road. And that was what the city council, I know back when I was on the council, did not want to see Martin Luther King become. Now, it has still had more and more since that time, and I understand the property owners there because it's not a great place to have a residential structure sitting right on the highway there. So it is a difficult issue between what the property owners want to do and what the city feels like is best for the city as a whole. But it's one of those things that really is very difficult to resolve, and I don't envy you your task here in making this decision.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, since I made the motion, I'm also going to say I'm basically in favor of the idea of the project, but given that this is merely a rezone at this point, we have no guarantee that that's the project that would actually end up being built. That's not questioning the applicant. I'm just saying I can't predict the future. And in this particular case, I don't think that zoning is appropriate in that case. I think that staff's indicated that there's a way for the applicant to build essentially what they want to build under a different zoning, and that's what I would probably be more likely to support.
Okay. Any other comments? We have a motion from Commissioner Chesser and a second from Commissioner Autry. Mr. Garner, will you please call the roll?
Autry? Yes. Hoskins?
Yes.
Chesser?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Control?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Winston?
Yes.
Bunch?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, and the last item, administrative item 13-4331 for the Urban Agricultural Code. Mr. Garner, if there's public here to speak to this item, or?
Right, and we'd recommend it be tabled date specific until your next planning commission meeting.
Okay. Okay, seeing no public left, I'll bring it back to
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Chesser.
I move that we table administrative item 13-4331 until December 9th.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Chesser and a second from Commissioner Pennington. Mr. Garner, will you please call the roll?
Autry?
Yes.
Hoskins?
Yes.
Chesser?
Yes.
Pennington?
Yes.
Control?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Winston?
Yes.
Bunch?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And Mr. Garner, did you have any announcements?
No, we have a subdivision committee meeting Wednesday, and all committee members have gotten back to me that they can make the meeting, so thank you for getting back to me.
You're going to have to contact this meeting?
I'm going to be out of town.
So you got it?
Jesse Coulter's going to run the meeting.
Okay, you got it full?
We have it full.
Okay. You don't need to.
With that, we are
Wednesday night.